Exactly. I mean, we couldn't be prouder, and it's always an honor to make state finals, and we try to it starts to become a consistent thing, which is incredible. It's always an honor to be a state finalist. Super proud of the kids, and they were disappointed, which is crazy to think. And we told them that is like, hey, it's okay to be upset. This is definitely, this is a real emotion. We don't fault you for feeling this way. But then just let's pause for a second and we're in the parking lot of Lucas Oil Stadium on state finals day, and we're upset that we're 7th. And that just kind of let them think about that and stew on that. And they're like, okay, yeah, we're disappointed, but and the cliche, oh, there's 10 other bands that would love to be here, which, yeah, of course there are. But yeah, there has been this change where now it's, hey, we as a program, we believe in the students, and the staff believes in the students and the community, and everyone believes that they can do it, and our kids believe that they can do it, and they're bought into what we're telling them and feeding them and teaching them, which is, that's really special.
That's Scott Salmond. In addition to being a proud husband, new father, and lawn care aficionado, Scott is the director of the wildly successful North Gibson Marching Tigers. Scott joined NGSC in 2013, and in the last 10 years has taken a band program with an already proud history to new levels of success. In the first episode of the Earning Our Stripes Tiger Pod, Dr. Goggins and I were lucky enough to talk with Scott about the band's journey from early beginnings to their now 3 consecutive trips to the ISSMA State Finals, the many people who have helped the band achieve this success, as well as his vision of how the band can take things to a new level in the future. Welcome to episode 1 of the Earning Your Stripes Tiger Pod. In this podcast, Dr. Goggins and I will talk about all things North Gibson schools.
Yeah, we're excited to start this new adventure. We've had this idea for a few months now, and we're finally able to get that into action. I want to give a big shout out to our behind-the-scenes tech producer and editor, Ross Ricketts, helping us out with getting this podcast started and helping us make this possible. So thanks, Ross. Our purpose with this podcast is just to give some inside looks and information into the school district. We've got many great things that our students and staff are doing across the district, and it's often hard for us to get that message out for people to understand exactly what we are doing and all the positive things we have going on across the district. We thought this was just one way that we could do that, while also featuring some guests and some programs that are going across our district to give some recognition to those individual programs and accomplishments. And so we're excited to continue to establish and think about who those guests can be. Some might be students, some might be staff members, teachers, administrators, and we're going to focus on that across the district over the next several months.
The other nice thing about the podcast forum is that it's a longer forum. So in this world of social media and 140 characters, it gives us a chance to do sort of a deep dive into some of the issues or good things that are happening and kind of explore those things a little more fully. So we're excited to be able to do that. One other thing we'll be able to do is kind of give our district and our parents, people within the North Gibson community a better idea of just some of the basic things that are happening. We promise we won't talk about those things for too long, but it does give us an opportunity to highlight some of those things that are going on. So we did have a board meeting last night. I know Dr. Goggins is ready to give us a little bit of update on that.
Sure. Yeah, we had some really good agenda items, exciting agenda items that occurred last night at our meeting. And one of those being that we are going to be moving forward with a project at Princeton Community High School to bring the precision machining program from its current location at the middle school to the high school through an addition. So we had a contract for architect, design, and engineering for that project, as well as our clerk of the works, the Sten Group, who will be overseeing that construction. So that's an exciting adventure that we're going to go on that I think is long overdue to get those students in the high school building. We estimate that that's 10 minutes a day of travel time for those students in the precision machining program. So over the course of a full week of 5 days, that's 50 minutes of additional instructional time that they're going to get back in the classroom once we get that project off the ground and completed. So we're estimating that that project will start sometime in May or June. We'll run throughout next school year, and will be open in the 24-25 school year. We'll also be doing an expansion of the 4T program area as part of that addition renovation project. So exciting times. And we also had a couple of presentations, one from student Clayton Moyer, and we're going to look to get Clayton potentially on this
Clayton's
podcast.
now on the guest list.
And he's planning an Earth Day project. Was really excited to hear the plans he's doing, his initiative and perseverance to plan such a project that's going to be a citywide project engaging the city of Princeton and community members and leaders throughout the city to work towards cleaning up and continuing to clean up the city of Princeton and beautifying the community while also serving as an Earth Day project. So we're excited to get him an opportunity to get information out to the community about that. We also had Ms. Kirchhoff, Spanish teacher at the high school, presented to the board for her hopes and desires to take a group of student travelers to Costa Rica in 2024. So the board did approve that, so we'll be starting that down that path of getting information out to parents in the near future of high school students who would like to participate in that. And I think that's really exciting that we've got an opportunity to, again, bring back some travel for our students. Of course, there's a cost to do that. It isn't free, but there's going to be opportunities to engage in some fundraising to offset some of those costs to make it more affordable. So that's exciting. Other items, voting districts. We got an update from Mr. Moon, our board attorney, on the voting districts. Several months ago, back in the spring, the board voted to change to residential districts, and the change to that is you still have to reside within a voting district to run for the school board, but all of the community of North Gibson across the entire district boundaries will vote on that residential candidate. So that has made it through the local phases of board approval, 120-day period for potential petition. There were no petitions to that restructuring of our voting districts. So now it moves on to the State Board of Education and their December meeting, and they anticipate that that will be approved. And then for the 2024 elections, we will have a new voting district policy and plan for the district. Beyond that, Mr. Velthouse gave some updates. I know he has some things to talk about here today that go along with that update that he gave.
Well, one of the things we want to talk about on this podcast is why we're doing some of the things that we're doing, and hopefully this will give us a little more time to explore some of those things. So we'd first like to thank the community for allowing us, the community and the board for allowing us to have a late arrival days on Wednesdays. And we've been using the late arrival time for professional learning communities, or PLCs, what we call them. But I wanted to talk about why we're doing that, what that gives us the opportunity to do. A professional learning community is kind of what it sounds like. It's a chance for teachers at different grade levels or within certain content areas like math, language arts, our CTE programs, to name a few, to meet together for just under an hour, and they're talking about what do we want our kids to learn, how will we know when they've learned it, what are we going to do if we find out students aren't learning something as well as we want them to, and then how can we enrich learning for students who maybe already know that skill or that content. So it's giving our teachers some real intentional time to talk directly about the things that are going on within their classrooms. And I think one of the things that teachers have expressed that they enjoy is it gives them a lot of autonomy, and they get to look at what are the biggest concerns in their classroom, and then they're going to use the data that they can collect in their classroom to try to manage those issues or find solutions. So they're finding that time incredibly useful. We've already seen that it's going to be a huge benefit to our students, which is what that's all about. But the PLCs on Wednesdays are really about our teachers becoming just 1% better, every day, every week, and they've really kind of taken that ball and run with it. So we're very pleased with how that's going, and once again, thankful for the community for allowing us that extra time every week, because we think that's going to be a great benefit to our students and your students.
And we're really excited. We're working with Mitch Ellison, his company Black Pixel Studios, and we're going to be doing a video here in the very near future giving an inside look into that PLC process that we're excited to share out with the community, with our parents, to give you a close look at what does that professional learning community process look like. So we think that'll be an exciting opportunity to share the good things happening in those meetings, but to give you an up-close and intimate look at what are those mornings looking like, and why are we saying that they're so beneficial. But I certainly think that this process is something that's really going to help us move the needle with our student outcomes. It's great to provide additional time. That's an invaluable resource for our teachers, is time. There's never enough time to sit down and collaborate to come up with good solutions for problems that they all are seeing, and maybe they're not even realizing that they're all seeing the same issues until they get together and say, here's the problem.
So here we are. We're with Scott Salmon, North Gibson Band Director Extraordinaire, and we're here, as we know, celebrating some of the extraordinary things that our students and teachers are doing. And our band, there's been no more successful program than our band in the last few years, so we wanted to sit down with Scott and talk about that success, how we've gotten there. But let's start with Scott. We want to know a little bit more about the man behind the myth. So can you tell us how you got here? How did Scott make his way from Vincennes Lincoln to Princeton Community High School band director?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to. Thanks, Mr. Veldhouse, and thanks, Dr. Goggins, for having me on the first ever North Gibson podcast.
Episode 1.
This is an honor, episode 1. So a little bit about me. I'm a simple individual. I grew up in Vincennes, Indiana. I went to Vincennes Lincoln High School. I graduated in 2007. I kind of knew early that I wanted to go into music education. My high school band director, Mr. Marsh, was a huge instrumental part of kind of helping that dream come to a reality. And so I went to Vincennes University for 1 year. My dad was a teacher there before he retired, so took advantage of the half-off deal at VU with college and got my general stuff out of the way, played in the band there. And then kind of the search was on where to land, and I ended up going to Eastern Illinois University. Fun fact about Eastern Illinois is it is the NFL coaching capital of the world.
I realize that.
Yeah, there are actually a lot of NFL coaches that have come out of there. So as well as Tony Romo most notably, and Jimmy Garoppolo, who plays for the 49ers too.
I didn't know that either.
So it's always cool to see those guys. Jimmy Garoppolo was there when I was a student, but we weren't necessarily, roommates or anything like that. But anyway, and then so did my student teaching up north. I was looking for kind of a Six Flags for music education. I landed at District 204 in Naperville, Aurora, and spent some time there in their programs, and really had just an incredible experience. Got a job at Red Hill High School in Bridgeport, Illinois, pretty close to here, and spent a year there. Fun thing about that was my mom she taught for 38, 40 years, and she was also a teacher at Lawrenceville School District 20. And so we would actually, I lived with my parents after college because I was broke and wanted to pay off my student loans. So I stayed at their house and we commuted together, which was kind of cute, I guess. And so that was kind of a special year for us, just to kind of, now I was the teacher, and to kind of clear our heads and kind of put our heads together at the end of the day. It was kind of really special. So spent a year there. Great program. Their band director, Ken Ingram, had been there for, his whole entire career, and built a great program in such a little community, and had just a great time there. Then I heard of the opening at Princeton by Joyce Kim Rohr, who helps us with the band now. and was good friends with Mr. Heineman and said, hey, you should, get a hold of them and you should look into this. And so we started to pursue that avenue and came over here, got an interview, had it felt good. It felt like it was, still close to home. I was familiar with Princeton at the time, being from Vincennes, and I thought, hey, this seems like a good opportunity for me. And they had a competitive marching band at the time. Red Hill did not, which wasn't necessarily a bad thing, but I kind of needed to scratch that itch, I think, of doing marching band from doing it competitively at Vincennes for 4 years. And so Princeton they offered me the job, and this is year 10 now of being here. So it's been an honor to be here and lead the program and watch it grow, and just seeing what the future holds for us is really exciting.
So you've mentioned several people already, Mr. Marsh, your band director that you worked with over in Illinois, your parents. What sort of influence have they had on, what sort of things did you take from them into your program starting out? Yeah,
so I come from a whole family of teachers. I mentioned my parents, collectively, I think they've, taught for 50, 60 years. My mom taught second grade. My dad taught college. My sister was a teacher for, I think, 6 years. My aunt is a teacher. I mean, it's just kind of, I think it was just in the blood to do it, as they say. But yeah, I mean, I have great parents. They are, they've guided me and really helped when I have, difficult decisions as being like, a young adult. And my high school band director is just, I mean, every time I see him, because we compete with them now, and he's still teaching, and we run into each other, and he always tells me how proud he is of me. And I'm a person that is like, I don't really love the praise. This podcast is maybe a little bit outside of my comfort zone, because it's really just about like highlighting the students and what they're doing. But it's special to run into him now, and every time he sees me, he's just like, look at where you are now. We're super proud of you. And so that's really cool to run into him and still get to kind of share like those experiences with him now.
Well, I think that's an important part of being a teacher is you find out all students kind of need somebody else in their life to believe in them, and it sounds like that's a role he's played in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you've played that role in many of our students' lives, which is part of the reason we're doing this. But you also, I've heard you say recently, you got some great advice about how to become a successful band director in college. Like you were talking about best advice you ever got in college. Can you talk a little bit about that too? Because I think that's an important part of this story.
Well, the best advice I ever got in college about being a successful band director was marry up.
And you did that.
And I 130 million%, like, yes, I definitely did that. My wife, Victoria, we have our first child, Clark, and he's 6 months old, taping of this podcast tomorrow. So November the 20th, or is that where we are? Yeah, November 19th, sorry. Yeah, so tomorrow, November 19th. And yeah, she's the nucleus really to it all, or no one loves me anymore and cares more about my success than, my spouse. And every time there's a difficult decision to make, she's always someone that I can confide in and say, hey, I think, this is the decision that needs to be made. And she actually can help, kind of play those roles of, hey, this is a good thing, or here's why this isn't, or, she's just been a great source to our success here for sure.
Scott, I know when you came to the program, I remember from your early days that you had lofty goals and ideas, and some of that comes from success of being in a program like Vincennes, where when you were in the program there, they had success. So talk a little bit about when you came in, what your expectations and your thoughts and your goals for what you thought our program could be, what those were when you came in, and where are we at now in that? Because I think the success came to some probably fairly quickly, but it wasn't all easy to get there. And I know that was from having a vision that you had. So talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I had it all written out, like here's the exact plan that we have to follow. But I mean, just, being here and being consistently here, and, showing up and, kind of advocating for our students. I think that has played a big role in our successes. Our administration is a huge portion of that, supporting us going to, these different events, getting the buses lined up, all those kind of behind the scenes things. And also our Band Booster organization as well, kind of getting them to want to buy into this too. I mean, a lot of times, like with other activities, the parents maybe don't feel like they're as involved because they're not coaching. They're watching the game or something. And with marching band especially, like we need those parents to, build props and, push props across parking lots and all that stuff. But yeah, so I think just making it really a community effort has really helped. Of just, when I first came here, the students were only focused on marching band. Marching band is the most important thing, Mr. Solomon. Oh my gosh, we love it. Great, cool. Let's do that. This is fun. And then it was like, hey, there's also other things that we can do too. There's solo and ensemble. Oh yeah, we like solo and ensemble. We've done that before. And so we started to just kind of build that up a little bit. And then, they had a jazz band, so we got more kids kind of interested and involved with that. And then we did something really different, which was going to an organizational contest where we play, for 3 judges at the end of the school year around springtime. And I told them, hey, you have to sight read. And they were like, what do you mean we have to sight read? I'm like, you are going to go into a room and they're going to give you music that you've never seen before and you have to play it. And they were just like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know if we can do that, which I wasn't sure if they could either. But what I didn't tell them is that we were only sight reading for fun that day, that it actually didn't feed into our score. I put us in a division where you could sight read just for the experience. But I never told them that until we were done. So we went and did the gig and did the sight reading portion. They did fantastic. And then, hey, got a gold, great. And I said, oh, by the way, the sight reading you actually didn't have to do. And they're just like, seriously? And so that was really fun to, kind of tease them a little bit, but also to show them like, hey, you can do this. Yeah. Like this is an important skill to have. So that first year was really just making it that, hey, if we're going to make marching band our priority, we need to be playing year round. And so we would have students that would only do marching band and they wouldn't be in band at all. And then they would just show up over the summer and they're like, hey, I'm ready for marching band. And it's like, you haven't played your instrument since October. What do you mean you're ready for marching band? And so at the time, Jackie Young was here, and with some help from my former teachers in college, they were saying, hey, like, I don't think Jackie Young takes any time off. Like, I don't think she just shows up to the game. Like, we all know this. She works hard. I mean, still to this day. Like, she's in there in the gym working out or shooting free throws or something. We need to be doing that too. Like, band is not just a 5-month, like, it's not just about marching band. It's about so much more. And so kind of building that into the program of, hey, marching band is the most, it's the most community, like, centered thing. People recognize us. They know what the marching band is, but maybe they don't know the other things that kind of are going on throughout the school year, during that time. And I think now that they definitely understand that, hey, it's not just a one month or like a little once a year thing. It's the entire year that we're building off of. So we take great pride in that. We think it's important that they're always improving on their instrument, like from year round, and not just, hey, this is the competitive part. That's the only important part. We've just changing that mindset at the beginning. That was kind of the most difficult thing. And then they like, anywhere that you go, people always want to, hey, like, what is, we've always done it this way. Like, it should always be this way. And those are some of the most dangerous words in, the human language. We've always done it this way. And so, changing that mindset and saying, hey, let's look at it from this way. Let's try this way out. Let's see how it goes. The change is really okay. Change can be a good thing, and in our lives, and we try to teach our students this, that there's going to be a lot of change in your life from when you pick up that horn in 6th grade to when you walk across that stage as a senior. So just embrace change, and change is okay. It's how you adapt to that change.
So, recently competed in the state marching band contest and 7th in Class C, correct?
Yep, correct.
And Mr. Velthouse and I had the privilege of going and watching, and one of the things we noticed as that contest was ending and we were in the milk celebration was students weren't necessarily just pleased that they were there and they got 7th, which
In fact, some of them you could tell where they were, visibly disappointed, with the 7th, which we're certainly not celebrating.
No.
But
and we talked about, man, we were really proud. We thought the performance was really good, and everybody was happy that you made it back there from a community perspective and administration and staff, and but we were just impressed. I know that might seem a bizarre word to use, that when we got to that that celebration area and we're having the milk, that you could tell the kids expected more. I think that's a sign of true success when you've got kids that we were at a phase where getting back to the state competition was being celebrated, and your kids loved that, and I know you guys are proud of that too. And now we've entered a phase with your competition team that they don't expect to just get there. I think they expected to be, if not top 5, they wanted to win. And I think that's a true sign of a changed culture and increased expectations and respect for what they're doing, that they've arrived to a point that the organization you've developed is not satisfied with just what they did before. And while we were all proud of them, and regardless of placing 7th or 10th or 1st, we had the same pride. I just found it really interesting. What do you think builds that in your kids that are competing? How have we gotten from we're just happy to be back? How many years was it since?
28 years.
28 years. They finally made it back to a state competition. Did well, but what took that next step from just happy to be there to we want to do really well at that state competition?
So exactly, we couldn't be prouder, and it's always an honor to make state finals, and we try to it starts to become a consistent thing, which is incredible. It's always an honor to be a state finalist. Super proud of the kids, and they were disappointed, which is crazy to think. And we told them that is like, hey, it's okay to be upset. This is definitely, this is a real emotion. We don't fault you for feeling this way. But then just let's pause for a second. And we're in the parking lot of Lucas Oil Stadium on state finals day, and we're upset that we're 7th. And that just kind of let them think about that and stew on that. And they were like, okay, yeah, we're disappointed, but, and the cliche, oh, there's 10 other bands that would love to be here, which, yeah, of course there are. But yeah, there has been this change where now it's, hey, we as a program, we believe in the students, and the staff believes in the students and the community, and, everyone believes that they can do it, and our kids believe that they can do it, and they're bought into what we're telling them and feeding them and teaching them, which is, that's really special. It hasn't always been that way. Our kids are very coachable, and people think, well, how can you coach in band? But it's a grind. They start this stuff in April, and here we are in November, and we're just finishing up. And, like we were talking about earlier, the next season starts, on Monday, right? When we came back from finals. So I think they're gonna grow from that. They shouldn't feel like they failed, because they certainly didn't. But the feeling of being, back at school now, the dust is starting to settle, and being in class, the attitude is let's go.
Yeah.
Like they're ready.
They
They're
feel
ready
they
to
feel they have something to prove coming back next year.
They do, which is really exciting because there's probably older past groups that might have been just like hung our head or like whatever, but I mean, even really when we weren't making finals, like I mean, heck, for the kids that wanted to keep coming back for all those years, I mean, I think it speaks a lot of pride of just what they feel of just doing the activity. Certainly those years weren't failures by any means. I mean, I contributed to 6 of those years of not making it. But we've gradually started to make, the positive changes. And like I said, the culture changes and kids, believing in the product and being proud of the product. And even just, like out of all the state finalists from this year, there's only 6 that have made it 3 consecutive years, and we're one of those 3.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that number will start to fluctuate when we get to 4 years in a row and 5 and et cetera, et cetera. So the consistency aspect is what's really exciting going forward.
Yeah. There you go. So hopefully, the kids take that emotion that they felt and can use that as fuel for next year. What is in your mind, Scott, what does the next level look like? Is there a next level? If so, what does it look like?
Well, there is a next level, and it's cool because the kids they present really what the next level is. I mean, I think they're expecting us to reinvent the wheel or like, hey, here's this new thing to do. But I think really they're the drivers of it. Like they're the ones that are, we give them, hey, let's try this, and they do it. And it's like, okay, well, where can we go from here? Right now, we're preparing for solo and ensemble, and it's very individual based. So, we tell the kids, hey, if you think that you're going to be someone that we're going to be relying on as playing a quartet, being a soloist, being someone that we're going to feature, in the show next season, then this is your kind of audition for that process and for that spot. That was a big role in how we designed this last year's show. And then from there, it's really just like the designers and, the drill writer and, our staff that kind of take, the lead on, okay, like here's what we want to present to the kids and what we want to do. And then the kids execute it. And then, hey, parents, here's what we need you to build, and then never doubt the band parents. Like that's right. They come through.
They know how to get it done.
They will get it done.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because you've said that before, and I kind of wanted to hear you talk a little bit more about that. And I've witnessed that myself. A lot of times, teams, students, groups that have success, a lot of times there's a strong parent group, and there may be a lot of variables there, but there's a lot of support.
Mm-hmm.
So you've said many times that the parent support is a key reason to this band's success. Can you tell us a little bit more about that in detail? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so the Band Booster organization is incredibly strong here. We have an amazing executive board and leadership team. They put out probably a lot of fires that I never even know about during a contest day or in the middle of the week. They're fixing uniforms, they're getting things sewed up, and they're like, oh, we fixed that. I didn't even know it was broken. Like I didn't even know that was an issue, which is awesome because then I get to spend time focusing on other things like, okay, how can we get better this week? Communicating that with the staff. What are some things? What needs to be the focus for this week going into this contest, or we're coming up on regionals or whatever. So it really helps me to I don't really have to worry about some things getting done or the uniforms getting packed or the trucks getting loaded. I mean, when we show up to a band contest, like I'm the most irrelevant person there because it's all coming off the trucks. And if they said, all right, you got to reload it, I would have no idea where to start. Cause I mean, they've got it all figured out. They've got the schematic and here's where it goes. And I just stay out of their way because they're just pros. And sometimes it's a really quick load time, and so we send the schedule to our executive team, and they look at it, and they're okay, here's how long it takes, and John can only drive this fast, so here's the route we're going, and just hey, okay, great, you guys got it. So and they're friends. They're friends of mine too. They're hard workers. Of course, most of their kids, not all of them, we have people that just help because they love it. And I've had a lot of parents that are graduating that are like, "Hey, we'll see you next year," which is an awesome thing to hear from them, that they're just that bought into it.
That really says a lot about your program.
Yeah. So we're thrilled with the boosters. They raise a ton of money. The budget presentation that I do in February or March is always just like, it can be a little bit scary. But they look at it and they support the vision of the program and the ideas that we have, and they like winning. They're like, man, it's really paying off. Hard work is paying off for us, and seeing the group succeed. Because we have parents that, hey, we remember what it was like not to make finals. Like, we've had seniors that have graduated, and now we've got a freshman in the band. We remember what those times were like, and and they can even see the growth within their own organization, of how much it's grown and developed.
So, Scott, if we got people out there watching that have students that are coming up through elementary school, and they're starting to think about, what activities are they going to participate in? What's your message to them about maybe band or the arts, or those activities, and how does that fit in, not only in being in those programs, but can that fit with being an athlete, and how does all that work together? What's your plug for that? And I want to say I was a benefit of being an athlete while also being a student in the arts and being in a band, and I saw the benefit of those, and certainly research out there supports that students who are engaged in the arts certainly see significant academic gains in that as well. So what's your plug for those parents who are thinking about, what are my kids going to do? What do we want our kids to get into as they start to move into middle school and high school?
Yeah. Hey, well, my advice is this: don't be a spectator, be a participant in something. Mm-hmm. Don't just sit on the sidelines and watch other kids, take these opportunities. I mean, there are dozens and dozens of opportunities that we have at North Gibson. So don't be a spectator, be a participant, get involved with something. We have kids that will show up in May at the end of the school year, and they're like, "Hey, I don't play an instrument, but I think I really want to do marching band." And it's like, okay, well, we'd love to have you. Let's figure out how this can work. Okay, how can we plug you in that this will be a benefit to you, but also will be a good experience for you. But I would hope that students would and parents would see the value of seeing their kid be involved with something in a group activity, band and choir and basketball and football. Like, these activities, they're to motivate you and to set goals for yourself, and just to it's going to keep you out of trouble, really, is what it comes down to. When we hear names come across on the announcements at school, it's like, they're unless they're getting an accolade, which we have several of those, it's like, hey, like, the odds of them probably being involved in something aren't high. So I'd encourage parents, get involved with something, whether it be band or choir or anything, that's really just going to benefit your student going forward, in their personal development.
Yeah, I agree. It's certainly, you can see correlations and connections across the board of those kids who are more engaged at school, through clubs, activities, athletics, the arts, band, choir, art club, FFA, all those different connections you can make in a school. Mm-hmm. The more connections they have, the more successful they are in school. Also, the benefits of being a part of a team and an organization that has to work together to achieve success is, there's nothing more realistic to what being an adult's going to be than having to work together with somebody to accomplish a goal that we all have in common and want to achieve. So I certainly think encouraging our people to continue to look at those, and our young families who are looking at what are our kids going to get engaged in. We certainly have something for everyone.
Yeah.
Band and instrumental music is certainly one of those that has high benefit.
And I don't even think I really answered the other part of your question, but like you can do both.
Yep.
Like you can do band and choir and theater and still play football. I mean, we've had literally that exact scenario, or a cheerleader or whatever. Like it's not just you have to pick one or the other. We understand that we have kids. I mean, especially in the band, we have kids that have to go to archery and have to go to bowling and have to go to cross country, and I mean it's a puzzle. Soccer, like put it all together. But we make it work, and they're still they put in their time for band when we need them to be there too, and so it's not just oh, we can't do it because we have this going on. It's like, I mean, your kid's going to be busy, but that's going to be the best thing, like getting them busy and getting them involved with everything that
And
you
I think
can.
that's the real uniqueness of having a small, mid-sized school district is the opportunities for kids are endless.
Yep.
And if kids want to be involved in something, there is something to be involved in. And having kids involved in multiple areas outside of the school day and athletics, those things are essential for us to have quality programs.
Certainly.
And while larger school districts might have kids focus more in just the arts and not athletics, for us, having those connections and seeing kids do both brings quality outcomes beyond just those activities they're competing in. And that's what I've always enjoyed about being a student who grew up in a small school district and now being part of a school district that is smaller as an administrator, is seeing that all those kids that engage and make different connections with different people because of those engagements and activities that maybe you wouldn't have gotten somewhere else that's larger. So we certainly want to see our kids continue and see those football players standing out on the field at halftime playing an instrument in the marching band. To me, there's nothing that's more exciting.
Yeah, I think that's a cool thing. Like, the kids are like, well, what do you want me to do? Put on my band uniform? And it's like, no.
Yeah.
I want you to just do your, like, here's your instrument. Go out there and do it. Take your pads off first. It's fine. Or,
Well, I think that's something that's really good about our school district is all of you work together, from coaches to band directors to choir directors, to make sure that kids can fit those activities together so that they can do multiple things in the same season, even if necessary. And that's just something that's really unique and appreciated to see, is that you can have those kids that can switch over and do things at the same time as football's going on. They're in the marching band. So I appreciate that you, as well as our coaches, focus on that. If there's a way, we'll find a way. And there almost always is a way to get kids involved in multiple activities.
So speaking of finding a way, you talked earlier about one of the things you had to do was take a look at some of the things that had been done but maybe weren't things that you needed to continue to do, that there were times when you have to decide to do things differently. Can you talk specifically about a couple of those things? What were some things that you looked at and said, hey, we maybe need to go in this direction, or we need to make a change here? Are there any specific things you can think of?
I can't think of anything maybe that is sticking out like in my mind. I think, I guess what comes to mind right now off the cuff is my second year here. Like we weren't winning shows the first year, marching band, whatever. So in the second year, I said, hey, like I didn't even know that this existed, but they're like, there's this other, like it's still within ISMA, but it's called Scholastic class. And I'm like, all right, what is that? And they're like, well, it's like for groups that are like, maybe not, you kind of know, hey, we're not ready yet to compete with the big dogs. Let's, do this instead. And so we did that, and we made state finals for that, for that class, and that kind of brought some excitement to the program and to the kids and the community. Like, hey, like state finals, that's kind of cool. I think everybody, at least that had been following the band, kind of knew it wasn't the state finals, but I think it was a good building block to kind of taste some success at first, and then the next year we're like, well, let's do it again, and they're like, well, you can't because your band's too big. And it's like, I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
that's a nice problem to have.
Yeah.
So then we weren't eligible for it anymore, and so then it's like, all right, well, now we're with the big dogs, and then we made semi-state, and we've made semi-state ever since 2015 when we came back to open class. So it's kind of since then just been pushing. And a lot of directors would be like, "Why are you doing Scholastic? What are you doing?" It's like, well, I think this is what's best for us in our situation. And I think, some other people were like, that's, I never thought of it like that, or that's a good way of looking at it. And then, they were doing it the next year, and then now they're coming out of it and back into open class. So it's a unique opportunity that ISMA gives to those growing programs, like groups that maybe haven't marched competitively, and to give them a kind of a stepping stone back into the activity.
So I want to talk a little bit about, you had told me a story a couple years ago about kind of a situation where things got real in the band. And so
It's always real.
I wanted to hear this again, because I remember when you told me, I felt like there were some interesting takeaways about you as a leader, and the band was starting to have some success. And I wondered, is there something here? But can you talk a little bit about the whole air raid situation and the resulting, I guess, fracas from that? Kind of go through that with us in your own words.
So I think back before I started, or there used to be something that they would do. They'd be practicing, and then, we have planes flying over the practice field in the summer because they're putting insecticides on the crops and all those things. So they're flying fairly low. And so the kids would call out air raid. And I didn't know what this was. So, like, all of a sudden, like 2013, air raid. And I'm just like, what are they doing? And they're literally just running all over the park. Like, we're in the middle, like 5, 6, 7, 8, here we go. They're just scattering, running around. And then they just start falling around like they're getting literally, like, shot down, like an air raid. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, I wasn't prepped on this at all. And, at the time, I was much more... Not to say I'm not serious, but I was too serious when I first started. I've kind of chilled out since then. But it was just like, what are you guys doing? Like, what are we doing out here? And so it just kind of took me back to, those times of like, hey, we should be working on, we've got an important, contest, whatever. So then the story you're referring to is 2021, this happened again. Mm-hmm. And I don't exactly know which student it was. We'll keep them out of this. But they air raid. And not everyone jumped in. Uh-huh. And some were like, what is this?
Right.
But some kind of jumped in.
Yeah.
And it's like, this was regionals. Like, this is a qualifier. If we're not in the top 10, it's over.
We go home.
This is it. Mm-hmm. And like, they're, kind of gooning around. So I'm like, what? So I was tested that day.
So you didn't jump in and do air raid right before regional?
No. I was on the lift, and I quickly just came down and was like, all right, like, I need a minute. I got to just, like, get out of here. And I just removed myself from the rehearsal, and the staff just kind of was like, okay, I think we're, in charge at this point. Not my brightest spot at all, but it's like, this could be worse if I just stick around. And so then... I didn't talk to them really the whole day. Like, didn't talk to them in rehearsal. We loaded the buses. I'm like, I'll see you there. And normally we give like a big, like, kind of pump them up and like, all right, be good kids. Don't mess up. Don't, do anything goofy. And then, but we didn't have that. And so we have physical warm up. And I said, all right, everyone get in here. And they're like, and they like, a dog, like,
tail
between their legs. And they just kind of go, all right. If you guys ever seen Seinfeld, we're going to air our grievances right now. So we just needed to get the pole out and air our grievances. And I said, hey, listen, today reminded me of some not great times. And that's not, like, you're not that anymore. Like, you are a group that you're poised to be winners. And, I think that was mostly the conversation. Like, that's why that just hit me in the wrong, like, that just really stung today. And they were like, okay, now we understand why you don't like the air. Like, we get it now. I'm like, yeah, you're reminding me of the old version of you. Like, I want the new version, and they're like, okay, that makes sense. And I don't think we've seen one yet. Now, I've maybe heard feel like, just kind of like, just to mess with me and just, get that look. But yeah, that's that story.
what I liked about that was it seemed like, you gave, I remember you telling me that you gave them, and when you initially told it, there was maybe a little bit more passion in the conversations with them. It was but kind of gave them an opportunity to look, if you guys got problems with me, let's
Yeah.
let's air these grievances, but we're going to talk about this.
I got a lot of problems with you people, and you're going to hear about them. I think there's the Frank Costanza line there. So, yeah,
But-
I heard about him.
Yeah. But what I liked about that was it seemed like, I don't know that that's something that you do every week, in a leadership position.
No.
But from time to time, and you and I've talked about this, it sometimes is important to be just completely authentic. And, I think you gave them a really good window into how you were feeling. And so they knew you were being completely honest with them. And you also gave them an opportunity to be like, hey, look, I'm not perfect. I think you had even said something like
Yeah.
that. I'm not perfect either.
Yeah.
Like, we can talk about that too, but
Yeah.
we're going to talk about this right now.
Yeah.
And so just kind of giving them an opportunity to be like, hey, look, we want to talk. Let's talk. And feel free, but, we are going to talk about this. But, kind of treating them like almost a little bit like, adults, equals, and letting them, have a part in that conversation, I think, is important. But, you also made your point that, this is where this is the past. And you said, you guys are a different version of yourselves than you were back then. So I just thought it's a great story, but it's also, I think, a good illustration of some good leadership qualities too. So, so last year's theme, or this past year's theme is Reap and Sow. The year before that is the Celestial Sphere. So for the casual band fan, can you take us through how the selection of a theme, how that works? Like, is there like just a one button you click at Amazon that sends you the uniforms and like the 40-foot cornucopia? Or, how does that work? How do you select a theme, and then where does it go from there?
So there is Band in a Box is what we call it, where you can literally here is this show package you can buy for X. Which we have taken that approach like a few years back, but now the way the activity is kind of shifting, we're more, things are custom. The tops are custom, the plumes, the hats are custom, the music is custom to what the ideas we're trying to portray. So really it comes down to, here are the ideas that are in my head, but I am definitely not the designer. I just want to make them sound good. So, here are my thoughts. What are your thoughts? And then it just kind of builds off of that. So this time of the year, it's a Google Doc. It's like, okay, just something comes in your head, just spit it out there. I was in class today and I was like, ooh. And so I kind of went down a quick rabbit hole just to see oh, well, does this work with this? Just to, and it's like, well, I probably should write this down because something might come from this later. So our staff is always constantly thinking, and sometimes it's jokes like, oh, we should, everyone wants to do a pirate show. I think that's literally every school everywhere. But, it's just it's been done. For our process is we want it to be something that you remember, something that's memorable. So you mentioned the cornucopia. We have an ISMA zone meeting last week after state finals, and the ISMA board members that are there, they see me, and I've been at Princeton now for 10 years, so they know they can associate what school I'm at and pick me out of a crowd, and they're like, hey, I could use that cornucopia for my Thanksgiving meal coming up, maybe to bring my guests in or something, which sounds cheesy, and it was, but at the same time, it's like you remembered Princeton's show. You remembered that's what made it special and unique. So that's always what we're trying to go after is what can we do? What kind of show can we do that maybe, there's been so many shows, there's been so many movies in the world. How can you recreate something and make it different, or a different video game or whatever? How can we, take an idea that we consider original or kind of make it into our own? So it's some years designing is easier than others. Sometimes it, when I presented the idea for Reap and Sow, I said I wanted to do a harvest theme, and we were at a Denny's on Semi-State Week during the Celestial Sphere show. And it's like, what are we going to do next year? Well, I've always wanted to do a harvest show, and I like the color orange is my favorite color. So make it happen, you know. But you know, I'm also, it's like, who's really listening right now? So then, like, you know, Kevin Manley, one of our designers, he comes back and he's like, hey, here's that harvest idea you were thinking about, and it's just laid out, and it's like, yes, like, I like this. Let's do more. Like, oh, we're serious? Like, you know, yeah, let's. I think there's something here. Like, let's start picking at this.
Well, I just want to go on the record and let you know that, you know, I've liked all your shows, but if I see a Chicago Cubs show coming, I'm not sure that I'm going to support that, Scott. So
Okay.
I just have to throw that out there.
Okay. Well, maybe we could do like a baseball theme.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, and if the Cubs aren't in it, that'd be even better.
I know
I just had to
publicly
give
we're
Scott a
always
hard
going to
time.
support and say, you know, if you've been to state 3 years in a row, you can do whatever you want. So I think publicly that's going to be that's what our face to
Well,
the
Scott and
public
I
is gonna
just
be that.
always have this thing with the Cubs and Cardinals. So,
Yeah.
you know,
When, normally when I walk in with a Cardinals jacket or a Cardinals hat, it's normally like, oh man, what's he need now?
yeah.
So
There must be
Good
something
ideas.
across that Knox-Gibson County line where, like, it shifts to the north, because I know a lot of Vincennes people are Cubs fans. I don't know.
well, unfortunately, my mother-in-law, she is a Cardinals fan, and my wife is too.
Yeah.
So like that's been miserable and really the hardest part of our relationship.
No
so
one's perfect.
No one's perfect though.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, talking about baseball, what do you do, Scott, when you're not, you know, picking out themes, when you're not, you know, up on the lift? What are some other things that you like to do? I've heard rumors that you're into, you know, a nice green lawn.
Yep.
Can you talk about that? Maybe some
I
of your
like
other-
the time lapse videos. Maybe we could integrate one of those into the podcast
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, I'd be happy.
Very soothing.
Yeah, everyone loves the time lapse yard cutting, yard mowing videos. So I'd be thrilled to share those with you. Yeah, I got into yard care. I've always kind of wanted to be like nice, and then when the pandemic hit, and we're just kind of like, all right, what do we do? I was like, hey, this seems like a good opportunity to maybe go down that rabbit hole, and you know, it's a little bit of an expensive hobby, but yeah, and you know, some seasons have been better than others. Truthfully, this year hasn't been the best season, but you know, that's okay. Like, you
got
know,
a lot going on.
had a couple things going on. Birth of our first child was obviously the biggest one, and then, you know, with what comes with doing band and everything. And I also do real estate on the side with FC Tucker. So there's always something to do.
So wait a minute,
around
what
our
you're
area.
saying is, if there are anybody out there that's in need, like, of an agent,
Hey, if you're buying or selling,
listing-
I would love to help you. We can put my little contact there at the bottom. I'd be
It
happy
even
to.
has nice koozies that hook.
Oh yeah, we got koozies.
Yeah.
We milk party koozies. What could be better?
That was creative. I like that.
Yeah. Yep. School calendars. I still have some available
Yep.
if you need one for second semester.
Got one of those in my office.
Yeah.
Too, that's
Yep.
it's handy. It's right on my file cabinet, and if I
Yeah.
need to know, I can just look. It's right there.
Yeah. Yep. No, it's been fun to kind of get involved with, you know, our local market, but also just to kind of meet new people. I mean, with being involved with, you know, the school and our kids, it's kind of nice to have like another outlet to, you know, meet other people within the community, you know, in that way. So it's been fun.
Well, I think, you know, we've been here a while. It's been, but it's maybe time to start bringing this plane in for a landing. But can you talk a little bit about, you know, you've been here 10 years, and what sort of lessons have you learned? You know, I think of you often will joke that you're not a real teacher, and I would say I don't agree with that. But what have you learned as a teacher? But you're also primarily a leader too of the marching band. What have you learned about teaching, leadership, things that you've kind of learned along the way, maybe some aha moments that you could share?
So I say I'm not a teacher because I vividly can remember my mom sitting at the kitchen table grading stacks and stacks and stacks of paper.
Yes.
And I'm just like, I don't know how.
You're like, that's not for me.
That is not for me. But then I'm like leading down the road of teaching. So I'm like, how can I not grade papers? Like, that seems like, I don't know how teachers do it. Like, I think it's an incredible skill and patience. And so I truly admire that, that they're able to go through that and read all the names and the writing. And I'm like, wow, I'm stressed just thinking about it. But with band, it's like, hey, like we're making music, and I'm not necessarily grading papers. I'm like, hey, here's how we can help make your sound better, or try doing this. And it's more like hands-on than like 2 + 2 is not 5. Red pens everywhere.
So it's almost completely stress-free being the band director.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, there's no stress involved. Yeah, definitely not. Well, I mean,
Traded hours grading papers for hours on the lift.
I mean, it should be more stressful, honestly. But like I said, with the team around us, with the leadership from the administration and the support of the community, the band boosters, our students are resilient. I mean, man, that we've kind of got things really moving in a positive direction, and just the momentum that we feel is really strong. So, in a way, like, yeah, it probably should be. Like, I know there's other directors, and I hear their war stories, and I'm like, that does sound really stressful. Like, it is pretty, like, this feels pretty nice. Let's keep it right here. Yeah.
Figured it out. There's no reason this can't be fun.
At the same time, though, you're either growing or you're dying. So like a tree's either growing or dying, or like grass, it's growing or it's dying. So, we want to find like what that next level is. And with leadership, there's 3 questions that you should be able to ask a leader. It's can I trust you? Are you good at what you do? And do you care about me? And I think if you can't ask a leader those 3 questions, then, maybe that person isn't, the leader that you expect them to be. And so those are the questions that, I want our students to kind of think about and ask of me. And I want to produce those things. I want to give them the results. Kids are resilient. They work extremely hard. There's not a lot of kids that would want to sign up for, hey, I'm going to give up all my Saturdays for the next 14 weeks. Like, there aren't many teenagers that want to do that. They're like, hey, it's Saturday. Like, I'm either working or, I'm sitting at home on the couch. Like, and our kids are out there, sweating it out for, 16 hours, right? We're rehearsing and then going other places. So it's definitely something to be admired, what they're doing.
Well, certainly we know our kids and our parents trust you. We know the results speak for themselves. You're good at what you do. And we definitely can tell that you care about our students, and I know they feel that. So we appreciate everything you've done, appreciate the success that's brought to the community and the program, and you're a lot of fun to have around too, Scott. So
Thank you, Mr.
And it must
Veldhouse.
be said, your mustache is spectacular.
Oh, thank you very much. No, thank you to you guys for leading our corporation, and for the opportunity to teach and to work with these kids every day, and giving us the opportunity to be successful. It takes a village with what we're doing here within the entire scope of the band program. And there's obviously tons of things on your guys' plate, but the doors are always open, and we always have great conversations, and you always are willing to listen to what the ideas are, how you can support them, and then where you can help take us from there. So I'm grateful for the leadership from you guys, and from our building principals, and it's been a fun ride, and I'm looking forward to seeing where we go from here.
Well, we certainly appreciate you, Scott.
Thank you.
All right, Scott Salmon and the Tiger Marching Band earning their stripes.
Cool.
And the end of episode 1.
Thank you.
Great to have you.
Thank you.